Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Well, hello there, it's Dr. Gemma, and this is episode 123 of the Cognitive Podcast. And sadly, this one is going to be named pretty similarly to the one I made when Eleanor left us last year. So this is episode 123 for Auld Syne, my dear. And it's not going to be a really sad, gloomy one. I mean, it'd be really easy to go there, but actually I'm not feeling sad and gloomy. But I do have to drop the very sad bomb. I was trying to sort of prep everybody last week because I guess we saw it coming, but our 15-year-old wonderful German Shepherd dog Blankets went off to the Rainbow Bridge this week, and it could have been a lot worse than it was. Actually, she was feeling great, but she got a rapidly spreading cancer, and I mean rapid. 2 weeks ago, nothing. And this week, well, it was kind of everywhere. And so we made the hard decision. My husband was with me, and I was holding Blankets. And you know, when a German Shepherd is 15 years old, you're sad, but at the same time, you're wildly grateful because they don't live to 15. They usually live somewhere between 10 and 13. Blankets just had this amazing, healthy life. And she really, as far as she knew, she wasn't having any problems except she was wheezing. And there was a little bit of bleeding around her mouth, and none of that was hurting her. So, to be honest, Blankets had a great ending. You know, that was on last Tuesday. Fortunately, episode 122, I don't know what got into me, but I recorded it really quickly and edited it really quickly. I think because I knew we had the vet appointment with Blanks, I think I say it, and we had it Tuesday morning. And, you know, when you take a 15-year-old dog to the vet, you have to be realistic that that's probably not going to end well. But Blankets, well, what can I say? I will run with her in a better place. She was an excellent running dog. I feel very weird because I'm sitting here for the first time in 20 years with no German Shepherd dog, and I got them to run with me because I kept getting attacked back when I first became a psychologist. And a friend of mine said, you need to carry an armed and loaded set of teeth. And I got the amazing Tally, who was succeeded by the wonderful Artemis, who was succeeded by Blankets. And Blankets' name came from my son, who I believe was 3 at the time. And he was struggling with language, but he had learned the word blankets, and he was very proud of it because he loved his blankets. So my husband said, he'll name the dog. And he looked at her and said, Blankets? Because that's really what he could say at the time. And so Blankets got the very unusual sobriquet that she went through her time with us bearing. Blankets had been wildly brutalized by a previous owner who bred her on her first heat. He was going to do backyard German Shepherd breeding, you know, the place where we get dogs that attack people, and the breed gets a lousy reputation. Blankets, being a rocket scientist, escaped him and ended up living wild for almost a year in Malibu Canyon. She was caught by a live trapper, and this pretty much sealed her in hating men. And when I got her, she wouldn't let me touch her. The vet who was keeping her for the shepherd rescue advised me to put her down and said she's always going to be wild. And I might have considered it, except Artemis, who was aging and on her way out, was in the back of my Prius, was sitting in the hatchback. Blankets jumped in, and Artemis allowed Blankets to cuddle up with her. And you know what? If you remember Artemis, and most of you won't, you couldn't say no to Artemis. She was well named. She sort of owned the universe. So Blankets came home. It was well over a month before I could lay a hand on her indoors. Outside, to the day she died, if I called her to me, she would come, but she would make clear that she didn't want me to touch her. She was always just a little frightened. I think the greatest debt I owe to Blankets is that she taught me that post-traumatic stress disorder can happen in other animals besides humans, and it is very real damage to the brain, and it can be very long-lasting. Nonetheless, my husband was also with us when Blankets died, and he was cuddling her, and she was asking him for love. In the end, Blankets reached her final healing, and, it was 13 years of a great time with a reliable dog. Yes, when I was running on 2 occasions, I was attacked by men, and Blankets attacked them back. Blankets was terrified of men. We were running with Baron when Baron was about 6 months old, so this is a long time ago, over 10 years. And this guy jumped out of a bush, and Baron didn't hesitate. Baron was always crystal clear. You may remember Baron, my big Newfie. Baron was always crystal clear that nobody approached me without his permission. So Baron just went for the guy. Blankets couldn't believe the fun. Blankets was like, wait a minute, we're allowed to attack them? We don't just have to be afraid of them? And so Baron ran down the hill screaming intended murder, and Blankets ran down the hill joyfully helping and chased the guy away. I've never seen a human move that fast, I might add. There's nothing like 2 dogs whose weights are north of 75 pounds to make a grown man understand his ability to fly. At any rate, later on I was running with just Blankets. A guy tried to stuff me in his van, and Blankets went for him. And I have to say, I didn't order her to. She was behind me. And Blankets did something very unusual. Dogs always warn when they're going to attack. Blankets is the only dog I've ever met. She didn't warn him. What she did, and it blew my mind, I was running down a hill, so she was higher on the hill than me. Nevertheless, as I realized what the guy was trying to do, 75 pounds of dead silent German Shepherd sailed through the air over my right shoulder and went for him. And he's another one, man. It really was beautiful to see how fast that man could move. He got into his van. She almost got him at the door as he closed it, so she grabbed onto the fender, and she was going to kill the van. He did accelerate enough that she had to let go. And she thought it was glorious. She was so proud of herself. So, my brave and beautiful Blankets, it's been a wonderful 13 years, and I'm kind of past the fall on your face and scream and cry, which was how I spent Tuesday. And I'm into the place of gratitude that for years on this podcast, I have told the stories of Blankets and her colleagues and my son and my husband. And I'm so grateful to all of you who sent comfort this week on the Instagram account. I'm very, very deeply grateful to all of you. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it. I cannot tell you what it means to me to see all those tributes to my wonderful friend as she moves on her next adventure without me for a while. It meant so much. It means so much. Thank you so much to everybody. And a big shout out to you, Tiny Shiny Things. I needed the hugs, and that was a wonderful posting. And yes, I know, I feel like you're a buddy of mine too. It's a very weird line when you podcast, and you've been doing it a long time, and you have these followers who've been there and been there and been there and commented and participated. I remember a supervisor of mine saying back when I was just starting out, online friendships aren't real. Well, they are. I don't know what they are exactly. They're kind of awkward when you meet in real time, if you meet in real time, if you have the privilege. But I have to say, this week, I certainly felt the power of the online relationships. And thank you so much to everybody. I really appreciate it. So, that's it. That's the sad part. And it's not all that sad because I'm basically sitting at a Starbucks here on the 27th of March at 3:35 p.m. with a hatchback full of groceries, and I don't care because I'm drinking seltzer water. A friend introduced me to this, Maxine, in fact, when she was out in Disney with me, and Trader Joe's sells it by like the quart for 99 cents, and it's a really great alternative to a caffeinated drink. And I'm thinking, okay, I've got 2 liters of the stuff in the car with me, and I'm chowing down on the orange flavor, 0 carbs, natural flavors, really enjoying it. So I'm actually feeling pretty good today. It's a Monday, and I'm out and about doing my errands. Okay, it's true, I'm also drinking tea at Starbucks along with my seltzer water because I always feel like I owe them something because I'm hanging out in their parking lot and I'm going to use their restroom. Warm thanks to Starbucks. What's on my hooks and needles? Well, nothing got finished this week, and I'm a little horrified because something got started. I pulled sock yarn out of my stash from 2010. I think the yarn is Punta. And it's in the romantically named colorway HP 66. It's reds and oranges. I just needed something that looked springy. I pulled it out one night when it was pouring down rain. Last week we had rain 6 out of 7 days. Today is sunny, which is also why I'm out here. So these are the Spring is Coming socks. But I really should call it I really didn't want to do these socks. But my bandwidth, as I crawled through yet another week of being miserably sick, my bandwidth was so low, this was all I could do. As I record this, by the way, I feel great. I'm still a little low energy, and I'm sleeping like the dead every night, but it is so lovely not to have to sleep on a love seat so that I can stay upright. I can actually lie down without getting this backwash of glue everywhere I breathe. So I feel wonderful. And in the middle of this too, this was a hard week, and then suddenly good things started happening. I love the way the world works when that happens. When you kind of get through the cycle of the yuck and things start to recover, there's always kind of a recovery. So there's a picture of the Spring is Coming socks and the colorway. Vestuary, too low a bandwidth. I'm hoping to go home tonight and knit on it because I really just want to finish it. It's so close to finished. I'm just on the top half of the front, the V-neck, and then you do the ribbing around the neck and the armholes. It takes nothing. The lane splitter, I really want to do it. I really want to wear it. I'm enjoying wearing my big skirts these days. That don't know yet, whoa. We have 14 rows out of 19 completed. Row 15 is clipped on to the body of it and waiting for its long seam and its ends to be woven in. Row 16 is, of course, clipped together and just waiting in the cardboard carton of doomy doom doom for me to sit there when my bandwidth is low yet again and do the small seams. I think it was Twin Set Jan who said, "Don't you love it? This is the moment where it pulls you to the finish line." It's really true because I'm looking at it and I have row 16 to do the short seams and 17 and 18. They're all clipped together. And row 19 is already done in terms of its short seams. So it's so close I can taste it now, just finishing these last rows and then adding them on. Yes. Every time I do a long seam and I think about, now I'm going to do weaving in for about 4 ends at every intersection of squares, I think how much worse this would be if I was doing it all at the end at the same time. Instead, I'm doing it as I go. The blanket is beautiful. I am really shocked by it. You can see there's a picture on the left of the original plan, and I altered it slightly. I'm so happy that I did, and I just love it. Seamed together, even with some ridges along the seam lines. It's so great, and I've been sleeping under it for 2 weeks. I think I started sleeping under it when I had 9 rows connected, and at this point, it could be on the queen size bed and be doing just fine. I just love it. So we've got 74% of the blocks completely finished, seamed and ends woven in. And so we're just racing down the back stretch of the last quarter here. Pennsylvania Dutch embroidery, not really, but I am getting the yen to embroider and I'm looking at embroidery things. I went to Joann's yesterday because I just needed to walk and be out of the house. But I had a good time roaming through their embroidery section and buying the classic DMC book on how to do basic embroidery stitches, which I believe I bought the first copy of it. Let me think. It would have been 1977 in my sewing class. No, early 78. And it has now progressed to a place where instead of costing 98 cents, it costs, I think, $8. And it's spiral bound instead of just a little cheap paper pamphlet. And I love it, and I bought some embroidery needles, and I looked at needle minders, which is a new thing since I last was working in a hoop, and I really like this idea of just having this, magnet. One side it's really cute, has some little cute saying or animal. I'm looking at one on Etsy of a cat with a butcher knife in its mouth, which I just think is hilarious. It's a black cat. But, your needles stick to it magnetically, and if you pay an extra $2, they can make it also into a needle threader. How cool is that? Stay tuned, because I know I'm going to buy one on Etsy. And the Lady Eleanor shawl, I think once I finish the blanket, the Fabulous Don't Know, I suspect the Lady Eleanor may be my next project because I'm into 7 out of 11 skeins. And so that will only give me skeins 8, 9, 10, and 11 will count for this year's stash toss because I'm only counting the skeins that I started in the year 2023. And that, by the way, means that the Don't Know Yet blanket, none of that counts for the stash toss, and all is good. If you were wondering, we are still at 4 skeins new to the stash versus 21 skeins knitted out. I am not yet counting the skeins that are in use. You have to actually finish the skein and finish the project for me to count the skein, in case you were wondering. Nothing much going on Dizzy Blondes, nothing much going on in my favorite resources. I am still spinning the fuzzball of Minerva Daily. We are starting to shed here at Rancho Cognitive. I'm starting to find floating fuzzballs from the dogs as well as from Minerva. So that should be exciting. Let's move on to a strategy. We are here in mindfulness, and we are looking at Japanese, I suspect Buddhist primarily, but I could be wrong, could be Shinto, strategies that relate to our more westernized ones. So I'm looking at today Motanai, I hope I'm saying that right, M-O-T as in Thomas, T as in Thomas, A-I, and as in Nancy, A-I. Motanai is about wastefulness, as in don't do it. And the original concept is that you don't waste because the things around us are too good to waste, that there is a value in the everyday. You don't just toss it out, use it up, toss it out, or toss out the remnants. I like Motanai because it's leading you down the path of mending and recycling. It's about financial and economic thrift, as well as an appreciation and a gratitude for the everyday. I know in Buddhism the root of this is about respect for all things. And in Buddhism, for example, you never leave a book open upside down on its face, so that the binding stretches. You never do that. That you show respect to the book as a source of learning or wisdom. And it's that sort of everyday awareness that these objects in our lives contribute greatly to our comfort. I think we lose this a lot in our culture because we have such a disposable society. I finally went to the mall yesterday for the first time, seriously, in about 3 years, and I was really shocked. Everybody was wearing fast fashion, and it was cheaply and badly made. And I thought, well, I must look really weird because here I am, I'm walking along in my beautiful cotton walking skirt with leggings underneath and my hand-knit socks and my Crocs clogs and my beautiful sweater, hand-knit, of course. And I really just got hit over the head with Motanai because I thought I was going to stand out as dressing in a kind of eclectic way. Actually, I think I looked like I was wearing designer clothing because the seams were well sewn on all my clothes. It was not off a rack and easily copied. It was not the same exact cut and style as everybody else's, and it was not monochromatic. There was not a sense in my clothing that I was going to throw it out in a year or two. I think the youngest thing I'm wearing is the Feral Easter egg sweater, which is a year old and is doing just fine. It really blew my mind that I felt like I was walking through an upscale mall and everybody around me looked impoverished. And it was because the quality of the wardrobe was so bad. And I think one of the logics there is fast fashion, which of course is a major environmental polluter, as we all know. But fast fashion cultivates the idea that you can have this endless, limitless wardrobe and you just toss things out and buy new things. You don't even replace. So you can wear something new every day of the year and you're not building a reliable classic wardrobe. It really shocked me because I thought how much waste is represented here. And I thought what it would do to change the world if people were using sustainable fibers and renewable animal-based as well as plant-based fibers instead of using petroleum-based fibers that they're just making and tossing. So, Motanai, a bit shocking. In terms of ACT theory, acceptance, commitment, therapy, I think this really hits on your values, that you have an internal core of values, and the values are about protecting your world and protecting others by using objects responsibly. I think this also hits on committed action, that you have to make the choice not to buy wastefully, not to dispose wastefully if you can. I don't know, Motanai of all of these things may be the most tangential to the ACT hexagon, but I'm sort of in love with the concept. I feel really good about it. I feel as though, and this is the Amish in me speaking, that the concept here is that it's not just that you don't be wasteful. It's that you value what you have. You appreciate the beauty and the utility of what you have. And just simply ripping the husk off and throwing it away is wasteful, unless it's corn and you can compost it. But I mean, even there, you would be composting. I feel it's just wasteful to treat the world like it's a piece of corn on the cob and you're constantly husking it and tossing out bits and then chucking it away. That there's no value, there's no recycling, there's no composting, as it were. Okay, the fluffy books. I started reading a new book by Lynn Messina, and I'll come back to that next week, because I got bogged down in the Beatrice Hyde Clare series. I think in the second to last book, I just got bored. But then she has a new one, a new series from one of the tangential characters there, and it's the last thing I saw coming. And it's interesting. So I think Lynn Messina has rediscovered herself. Meanwhile, I did watch the entire series, The Law According to Lydia Poet, which is a production Netflix made in Italy. And I must say, it's very sumptuous. Lydia Poet is a historical character. She was one of the first women attorneys in Italy in the late 19th century. And this is really not that historically accurate, but wow, talk about production values. The wardrobe is insane. It's so beautiful. And yes, they are very, very quietly wearing chatelaines at their waists. I'm just saying, if you want to see some chatelaine action. But it's very good. It's not brilliant. It's not highly innovative or groundbreaking in anything that I can see. It's nice to see this set in Italy. It's nice not to see everything in England. And it's very beautiful. The acting is really good. They're working very, very hard on historical accuracy, and there's a lot of beautiful little detail. So I really enjoyed it. I don't think it's socially redeeming. It's got a nice feminist message, which I enjoyed. What I am finding astonishing is The Good Place on Netflix. I'm a little embarrassed at how long it took me to catch on to what the series is doing. And I don't want to ruin too much of it. There's 4 seasons of it. I'm in season 3. They are reinventing it every season, but they still keep doing the same thing. This is one of the most original, interesting, and thought-provoking things I've ever seen on television, and they're pulling it off as a comedy. It is astonishing. It's Kirsten Bell and Ted Danson, and talk about stretching people as actors. It's just fantastic. You can't stop watching it. What is it? Well, the premise is Kirsten Bell, our protagonist, opens her eyes and she's in the good place, and there's Ted Danson saying he's an architect named Michael. And yes, you're supposed to catch the reference to Michael the Archangel. So there's this idea that she's landed in heaven. And yet there's some very strange contention going on, and she meets her alleged soulmate, a guy named Chidi, who in life was a professor of moral philosophy. And Chidi, as part of the story, he starts teaching her moral philosophy, and you begin to realize, or at least I did, after 2 or 3 episodes, that every episode is using themes of moral decision and moral philosophy. And you think, how dull is that? It's fantastic. If I were teaching as a professor, I would be teaching this course along with the moral philosophers and along with bits of British literature, because that's what I know. It's an amazing series. The whole first season ends up as a sort of punchline at the last episode, and you think, well, that's it. And then you realize, no, they just reinvent it. And you think, well, that means, like all trilogies, the second season's going to be slow because they're trying to reinvent it to get to another major discussion, and that would be the third season. Nope. It stays brilliant through the second season. They reinvent it again for the third season. I want to tell you that it slows down. I hope it doesn't. Here in the third season, they just really stripped the point system, as it were, kind of morality, where, the more good things you do, the more your chances of getting into heaven, and so there's a scorecard. They kind of strip that bare, but they go through every other form of theory of morality as well. It is fantastic. It is so intelligent. It is so thought-provoking. It remains funny, but a lot of the times I'm just on the edge of my chair going, wait. Everybody stop joking. I need to just process what Chidi just said, or Eleanor, or any of the major characters. And somehow you end up liking all the characters, and it just never gets simple-minded. It is a lot of fun. And it just raises question after question about what we accept in terms of morality. So this is The Good Place on Netflix. This is in my fluffy books, but frankly, this is also something I really like this week. Put a lid on it. Well, we had a crisis. We ran out of heavy whipping cream. So you know what I did? Like any good keto person, I melted butter. Full fat, good old-fashioned salted butter. And then I put it in my hot cocoa. Now, if you're keto, you can't drink typical hot cocoa. You have to use whipping cream. And it's precarious because it doesn't taste the way you remember hot cocoa tasting, which is appallingly sugary. You actually have to taste the cocoa. It's a bit of a challenge now. And I haven't gotten to the place where I'm adding chili pepper and cumin and all that, but someday it's coming. Well, I had to go and melt a whole stick of butter in about 20 ounces of hot cocoa. Let me tell you something. I got salted hot chocolate, and it was like the best thing I have ever eaten. But I really felt very, very full, and I enjoyed it. I also ended up doing this in my protein shake, my keto shake, and my keto chow, and I determined that never a full stick of butter again. However, if you want to know, in 20 ounces of hot water, this is a tablespoon of cocoa powder, 15 ounces of hot water, and a melted stick of butter. Frankly, doing it again, should I have to, it will be half a stick of butter. But I have to tell you, hot melted butter in your hot cocoa with a solid tablespoon of cocoa powder and enough water is pretty darn good. In the meantime, on to the blather. So, somewhere around Thursday, I really felt like I was having the week from purgatory because we'd lost our blankets. And more than that, on Thursday I realized I had failed my deaf culture class because we were not allowed to miss an assignment. I did do an assignment that was due last week, an essay. I did it immediately. It was due on Sunday. By Sunday we were all caught up in blankets, and I just forgot to upload it. So I thought, oh my God, I failed the class. And then the teacher said, no, it was optional. I decided I gave you too short a notice for this one. I sent it off to her anyway. I wrote her a letter and said, I knew the presenter that we were supposed to be writing an entry about, and I really liked the presenter, and she might want to see how she came across. So here's my essay. Do what you want with it. I understand I'm not getting extra points, and I'm fine with that. She actually liked it. She said, this is really a great write-up. But again, that's kind of unfair because I'm a mature professional writer. So I can't imagine what she's reading. Actually, I can because I've seen the essays on the discussion threads, and they're incoherent to me most of the time. So I'm sure she did enjoy it. But I found out to my joy, Thursday night, I had not failed deaf culture. And at the same time, I got an email from HR saying, hey, by the way, remember that we made you Therapist of the Year last year? Well, that actually came with a spa package for two in which you get 50-minute massages for two and then tickets for two to a movie right by, at the movie theater right by the spa, And oh yeah, also there's a really nice restaurant there and you get dinner for two. So I got that email and I just sat and cried. And that was kind of the end, I think, of my formal period of mourning for blankets. That I just felt like everything is horrible. And then in one fateful afternoon, I found out, yeah, I'm still going in my deaf culture class and I've got this wonderful spa package. And I have to tell you, I literally just sat down and cried when I read about the spa package. So I messaged the people involved and said, I just want to thank you because I've been sick really for 6 weeks with just a 5-day break. And my dog just died. And this has just been so rotten. And I can't tell you how much it means to me to have something good happen. At which point my boss emailed me back and said, we love you. And I said, oh God, thank you. What a break. So the update, we're doing okay. I will say, I came home without blankets, and to my surprise, Minerva searched for her. And Minerva kept coming to me and acting uneasy, that she kept jumping in my lap and rubbing against me and really just clinging to me, which is not a very Minerva thing to do. And everybody else was okay until, let me think, blankets left us Tuesday morning. Wednesday night, I was sleeping on the couch, because I was still trying to sit upright. And Captain came in at 4 a.m. and said, hey, we're missing somebody. And I got up to see what was wrong, and she led me to all blankets' usual haunts, and then kept looking up at me. And then finally, when I wouldn't produce blankets, she went to the door and yelled, because she wanted to go outside and search for blankets. It was a rough night for all of us. She kind of kept all 3 of us humans awake. And she was better the next morning. She clung to me. She laid on my love seat all day while I saw patients. But, essentially, it's kind of weird. A lot of the dog people I know said, well, you want to have the body someplace where the other animals can check it over so they understand what has happened. I've done that. I've never experienced them understanding it. I've never seen it work. I've always seen the other animals go, that's funny, she's not moving, and then they just still look for her. That I think some animals understand the concept to some degree, some never do. But anyway, it wasn't that bad. It really wasn't that bad. Queenie, being Queenie, noticed for about 15 minutes. But Queenie just kind of is at that age. She's about 11 months. She just kind of shrugged and said, whatever, and got on with her life. So, meanwhile, nothing much is happening. Besides that, I've been spending the day rehabbing the 2 Roombas because they're both now, one is a year old and the other one is about 1.5 years old. I don't know how long these things are supposed to last, but I'm grateful for them every day. But it is a fairly easy thing now to go into Amazon, and as long as you know the series number of your Roomba, to go on and buy replacement parts. So everybody got new brushes and thoroughly cleaned out, and it was a very happy Roomba day. So hopefully we're settled in for a few years and things can calm down. Minerva needs to go to the vet, which I'm sure she'll hate me for. But it's nice to finally be at that point. I've been rotating all the animals through vet visits and vaccines and Queenie's spay and Captain getting her nose inspected and biopsied and all that. It's really nice just to be down to. The cat needs to go to the shot clinic and get her shots one of these days. On the calendar, the Evolution of Psychotherapy Conference, Anaheim, December 12th through 17th. I've got 12th through 23 there for some reason. I am deeply looking forward to that. I have a lot of points, and I will be staying at my favorite hotel, I think. I'm not sure yet how many days I'll be there. The really wackadoodle thing is, since I'm an online therapist, I can actually see all my patients and still do the conference. I just moved down to Anaheim, park my computers in the room, and see the patients between sessions. Pretty wild, don't you think? Minerva gets the last word, and it's my favorite picture of blankets with Minerva lying curled up against her side. Minerva in that picture is probably about 4 or 5 months old, and she just walked into Blanket's crate one day and cuddled up against her side as though Blankets was her mom. And if you look carefully at the picture, you will see Minerva in her traditional way to claim something. When she's telling you she owns something and she's dominant with it, she puts her right foreleg and paw over it. Yes, her right foreleg is over Blanket's left hind leg, and Blankets has her face behind her dog dish with this extremely long-suffering expression. So Minerva wants to say for all of us, thanks for all the love. Thank you, our listeners. Thank you, our beloved Blankets. Thank you for all the love. It's been a very challenging week here around the farm, but it's also been a very rewarding week. And if I ever needed any kind of indicator that I am loved and supportive, you all have given it to me, and I'm so, so deeply grateful. So everybody, hey, I skipped a lot of COVID stuff. Boy, that makes me happy, because I figure at this point, we probably know this stuff. Okay, so I'm just going to say, there's still a lot of illness out there. Wash your hands, wear your mask if you're in a crowd, observe social distancing, get all your vaccines, but most of all, remember we are a community. When we support each other, that's a way of supporting ourselves. It's not just about rampant individualism. So everybody, please remember, take care of each other, stay safe, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye. So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.